to GodCenter. Today we will be reviewing yet another message from Pastor Travis Green out of Forest City Church in South Carolina. I know I don't usually review the same message or the same person, I should say, twice back to back. Well, last week I did skip and I did an unboxing, as you probably have seen, hopefully. But I just really feel that I need to continue to review these roundtable discussions because they are just so important. I particularly love this past Sunday's message or roundtable discussion because they spoke on a topic that is, for the most part, how should I say, taboo in the church, and that is divorce, the issue of divorce. And yes, it's spoken about in the Bible, but in church per se, we really don't talk much about it. And I love that they not only spoke about how to prevent divorce, but they also spoke about what to do after divorce has happened. Take a look at this clip.
Let's start off with this question. What are ways to avoid divorce?
Okay.
Let's start off with that. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are able to recognize physical abuse, but they don't necessarily recognize verbal abuse and emotional neglect as a form of abuse. And so I think identifying and becoming aware of the varying degrees of abuse, you know, one of the things that I see in a lot younger generations, I'm 37, but younger than me, is that a lot of people will put you on mute or silent, or give you the silent treatment for a couple of days as a form of punishment.
Wow.
And they don't necessarily see that as emotional neglect and abuse. And so I think recognizing the different forms of abuse and then identifying ways to reframe them and have the communication about it. You know, some people, if I'm not being hit, because I recognize that it's physical abuse, then I don't bring it to anyone's attention and I don't make an attempt to try to resolve it. And so I think identifying ways that we are abusive to each other and then identifying healthier coping strategies is one of the things.
Wow.
And Jackie, for the singles out there who want to be married, quit looking for the right person, become the right person.
Right. Be the best version
become
of
a
yourself.
totally devoted follower of Jesus. And then when you're ready, God will bring that other person to you, because if you really love him, he doesn't want you to go through the struggles of a difficult relationship.
Wow. I know I always say wow, y'all, but it's just a wow for me. It's a wow because I love that this licensed professional therapist, Ashley Young, she really just honed in on something that perhaps people are just simply not aware of. People are very much aware of physical abuse. I mean, there's no hiding that. I mean, sometimes you can hide physical abuse, maybe wearing baggy clothes, that sort of thing. But some people don't even realize that verbal abuse is a form of abuse, as well as emotional neglect or negligence is also a form of abuse. And many people are in relationships where they're just miserable and they don't realize that, wow, they're being abused. And so I really appreciate her ability to share that. And just, you know, the Bible says for lack of knowledge, the people perish. So I really thank God that Ashley is able to share that with people and just raise an awareness. And then also tells you, okay, so once you're able to identify that this is happening in your life, in your relationship, that you actually be able to communicate that to that individual, and that you guys be able to have good communications where hopefully you can come to some sort of resolve as to what sort of strategy you can use to avoid this situation and really not just try to sweep it under the rug and act as if it's not happening. And I love Pastor David Chadwick's reference to Genesis 2:24, which states that a man shall leave his parents and cleave to his wife. And we have an expectation, I believe, as women, that men get that. And they may not get that. Just as I love another point that he raised, that just because someone is in a garage, that does not make them a car. It does not make them a vehicle. So that's just so super important to understand, that just because somebody is going to church every time the doors are open, that they are sanctified, holy, righteous, and a lover of Jesus. They don't equate the same. So, I mean, I'm just going to speak from experience and say, I remember when I was in the dating world or the courting phase of life, and a man would come to church with me, and I'm just like, hallelujah, Jesus. Yes, I didn't even have to break his arm. I have to break him up. I didn't have to I didn't have to try to, coax the person to go. But there's so much more that you need to see than feet that just go with you to the house of the Lord. What's happening outside the house of the Lord? What is their life like outside of the church? What is their life like Monday through Saturday? Okay, like these are important things that we need to know. And ladies, I say it to ladies, but I also say it to the men. Don't leap for joy just because you invite someone to church and they say, sure, I'll be there, and they actually show up early. The devil shows up early too, I'm sure. Okay, so we need to have an understanding as Christians that the Bible says be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication. And we are to search out. We are to search out every spirit, test every spirit. Don't just go with the flow and just pray about it and pray before we make these major decisions in our lives. So that is it for this episode of GodCenter. I did not cover the previous segment of this roundtable discussion, but I may have to just go and cover it because I don't know how many of y'all are going to go and check it out. So I don't know if you're going to do it, but so I'm just going to make up in my mind that I'm going to have to review that video. I decided to do my unboxing last week because I was excited to release that. However, I feel that video from last week, it needs to be discussed and y'all need to hear it. So if you watch it, great. If you don't, that's fine. You'll just have a new word on next week, okay? But anyway, that is it again for this episode of GodCenter. I will see you next time, but until then, be sure that you keep God at the center of all you do. Bye-bye.